It's Saturday, Saturday morning, and we're marking out on Markout Mania.
Yeah,
with the Wonderwall, Pedro. Good job, buddy.
Muchas gracias. Hola, amigos, and welcome to
Marking out.
Mania. Markout Mania. I should have used like an accent, but that would have been offensive, probably.
Because we're marking out. Damn, I'm gonna make me go put on my CD now. Today's gotta be a day
when I fall back to you.
Right now, it should have been. Oh my god, you get me all hyped up.
We're gonna talk comics on this show.
Yeah, yep, and we're gonna talk comics to you. I could read all day about Superman, Batman, and Robin too, because it's now marking out. Woo, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Who else does this?
I don't know, but I think we're three big idiots, and I'm loving it. So
Yeah.
right. Double Y, double H, what's going on in the chat? And good morning, Melissa. How the hell are you?
What's up?
YYH just said we're all a clan of idiot savants.
Yes, that is us.
That's better than being a clan of dumbasses. So
that is true, Zeus. That is true.
So
it's good to be back after not missing.
I know
after last week.
Well, last week scheduling issues, and but this week we had 2 weeks to read up on comics and you know, refresh our minds for this episode, talking all about comic books.
Yeah,
I don't know why I said it weird. Comic books.
All of us were geeking out in the comics, man. I was so tempted to go into my attic and just pull out like the boxes of comics, but I was like, you know what? I'm too old to be breaking my back and all that shit. You know what? Because I'm already doing that shit with all my Christmas stuff. So I went online and I was just reading stuff online, and I was it. It was a wrap. It was easy.
Yeah, it's like yesterday. I wanted to save the last day for the Spider-Man comics, but like I wasn't gonna go pull out all my Spider-Man comics. I just found them online. I was like, I'll just read them online.
I even busted out.
If you've got those damn 1960s Spider-Man, I'm coming to rob your house.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Do you remember? I think in the 80s there was some. I can't remember. It was called Marvel Tales or something. They used to reproduce old comics.
Yeah.
So that's how I have a lot of the really old Spider-Man, because in the 80s or so they reproduced a bunch of them under a different moniker.
I have a lot of Marvel team-up ones. You know, like
the Marvel team-ups are awesome.
Yeah. I have a lot of Marvel 201s, Marvel team-ups.
Here's an interesting thing, tidbit about Marvel team-ups. John Byrne, he was drawing those.
Love him.
Yeah, back in the 70s. And there was a time where, because like he was doing different books until he settled into like X-Men and stuff.
Meef, what's up?
Beef. And so he said that there was a like they had a little meeting one day, and they were like number, I don't remember what number it was, 100 and something or whatever, and he's like, they were like, it's like, well, I'm finishing 117 and you're doing 119, who's doing 118? They're like, oh shit, we don't have 118. And it's like, it was like due like Tuesday, and this was Friday when they found out.
Nice.
And John Byrne penciled the damn thing in a weekend.
Wow,
he's awesome, man. I mean, I love Byrne. He's the only person who could interject himself into a storyline and it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Fantastic Four? Because he did Trial of Galactus.
Yes.
He was actually in the book. He was actually in the comic book.
Yeah, he was in the comic book as the comic book artist.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was awesome.
I draw it's like because Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were in the wedding of Sue Storm and Reed Richards.
Right. Yep.
Oh,
They wouldn't let him in. They were like, "But we draw the book." They're like, "You're not on the list.
You're not on the list." But I draw you. You can't get in anyway.
Yeah. So, and that was really sad. It's like, when they did the movies and they didn't put Jack, they didn't have somebody as Jack.
They didn't do a lot of stuff. But then again, it was Fox who was doing the movies, and they.
Well, I was like, can we live in a universe where we pretend the Fantastic Four movies did not happen?
Well,
they absolutely,
especially the last one,
sucked.
Let's pretend there are no Fantastic Four movies.
Hold on. I'm sorry, but Galactus is not a big fucking cloud, okay?
No, he's not. He's not a fart cloud or a squid.
No, he's not. No. He's not an ink blot on my television. No. The hell out of no.
Here comes the fart cloud to eat the
fart cloud. That's hot. But yeah, Far Club. But like after this merger goes through with Disney, and then it's owned by Marvel, gets the rights back. Hopefully, all of us will actually have a proper Fantastic Four movie.
Right? Exactly.
I don't know if it'll translate to movies, but who knows? Maybe. I have faith in Marvel.
Well, it certainly can. I mean, if you can imagine it, it can work. I mean,
it could work.
You ever watch that one from the 90s that was never released?
Yes,
that was
Roger Corman.
That's like that old. David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, that was horrible. That was disgusting. I almost threw over my mouth when I watched that.
You ever seen that 90s Captain America movie?
Yeah, come on, man. Come on, he had the motorcycle helmet. He had the motorcycle helmet and the painted wings. I was like, what kind of shit is this?
I think that was the TV show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's the TV show. But they had like was it a direct to home video movie in the 90s? Yeah. That movie, I used to make fun of the Red Skull in that movie because he'd be like Capitan America. I used to come up with a whole song around it. I can't remember it now. But.
Damn, Pedro, because I still got that Wonderwall song in my head right now. 'Cause we're marching now. I swear you're killing me right now.
All right, round 2, let's go.
Oh my God,
I'm still James. Also known as Captain America.
There you go. Steve Rogers and Tony Stark are my favorite superheroes. Batman and Superman were right there with me too. I don't know when I'm reading more, but I got to get to them because I love it. Yeah, okay. Let me stop. I'm an idiot.
So once again, I got to grow up. I got to grow up, reading comics in the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. And as usual, those decades were
amazing.
Had some of the best and worst of things, but really, it was some of the best. And so when I was a kid, when I was 6 years old,
Baby Thunder.
I asked my dad Kronos to buy me a comic book.
Kronos. Zero, what's up, Zero? I'm sorry, go ahead, Zeus.
To buy me a comic off the spinner rack at the 7-Eleven.
Yes.
Right.
So all of us got our first comics.
Yeah. And so he bought me Captain America. He said, I read Captain America when I was a kid. He's like, I'll buy you a Captain America. Captain America 206, and it was written and drawn by Jack Kirby.
The King.
Ooh, yeah.
My father, when he was 11 years old, is when Captain America started. When it started, it was drawn and written by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. So you're talking a span of 35 years later, the man who started it had returned to the book for a second time. Nice. And here we are, a generation of a father and son, reading Captain America, drawn written by the same man who started it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That is awesome, man. That doesn't happen anymore. You notice that, right?
No. Well, I mean, it just can't. I mean, I mean, like generations now, guys that are in their 20s now that were reading 10 years ago, their kids can do the same thing now. But like for what that happened, because I'm kind of a weird kid, because like my parents were 40 when I was born, and my brother and sister are much older than me. So, it's like I was a late surprise.
You was an oops baby.
Yeah, pretty much. I was a birthday present baby. We'll get into that another day. But literally. The second comic book that I ever got was also from the 7-Eleven spinner rack, and it was a Scooby-Doo comic.
Oh,
and right. And now this this was the second series of after the original ones that were actually on Saturday mornings. It's like the New Adventures of Scooby-Doo. Is still before Scrappy.
Oh, thank God! I couldn't stand Scrappy. I wanted to kick him in the nuts.
I know Scrappy was fucking terrible, but it was the comic book adaptation of the episode with the chocolate, vanilla, strawberry ice cream ghosts.
Brutal.
It's actually a pretty pricey one to find. I've found it a few times, but I'm just like, I'm not paying $35 for this thing.
No.
But yeah, so those were like my first two comic books I can remember getting.
Wow, that's cool. I think my first one was because I was young. I was real young, and then my actually first comic was one of those giant size comics.
Ooh,
remember the giant size?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think I got like the Superman versus Spider-Man, because I was a kid.
Yeah,
I was like,
wow.
I was like, I can't remember how old I was. I was like 5, 6, or some shit like that. And that was my first one. And you know what? And then because I had that for years, and then I was able to finally read it later on. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then all I did was buy Superman and Spider-Man. I didn't know anything about Marvel, DC, or anything like that.
Right, and plus, like back then with Superman and Spider-Man in the same thing, that really really made you like, you didn't understand that they weren't normally together.
Right.
Most
and then I found the Superman versus Muhammad Ali and all that shit.
Yes,
I'm like, this is so cool. And then I would go to my local 7-Eleven, or there's a store here called Cappy's in the Bronx. It was called Cappy's, and all they did was have 3 big racks, like all the spinner racks, and they were filled with comics, the shit I'd never even heard of. But I would buy like the Avengers, I would buy Superman, and like I would buy Spider-Man. And okay, all right, please don't laugh. But I would cut out the little superheroes, and then I would make my own. I'll make my own thought balloons, and then I would make my own comic book out of them.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
Yeah. So I had all these cut up comic books when I was a kid, and like I used to get yelled at by my mom. I said, "Why are you cutting?" Like I had shit all over the place: scissors, paper, comic books, all over the place. And I would actually make my own, and then I really got into the Avengers. And then I was in junior high school. I would say about I think I was in like the 5th grade. There was an abandoned house, okay, because it was under construction, and then the whole house was just left to rot. Okay, so all my friends used to go to the house, and I was called Avengers Mansion.
Oh,
nice.
Okay, so all of us would go to Avengers Mansion. Like all of us would bring out comics, and and we would all just trade comic books, and we would just tell each other stories and bug out and shit like that. As I got older, is when I discovered Comic Cons.
oh
Right.
yeah.
I was in junior high school, and I discovered Comic Cons, and that's when I lost my mind. That's when I found out about the whole DC versus Marvel, and then there were like a billion comic companies out there that like I never heard of. Who's this superhero? Who's that superhero? And next thing you know, I started buying Valiant books for Exo Manowar and
Oh,
Image and this and that, and then I found Dark Horse, and I was going crazy. And that's when I got into it, man. And I went nuts. I started buying signed books and all these graphic novels and all these heroes, this, that. I was a big Captain America and the Falcon mark. I love Captain America and the Falcon. I love the Avengers book. I love Superman, and I love the Adventures of Spider-Man. All the different Spider-Man stories used to have, the Strange Tales, this, that, and the third, all kinds of shit they had.
Yeah.
And I was trying to buy every single one of them up, and then that's when I really started drawing. I would draw Superman in my sleep. Okay, I would draw his cape all day long. I would draw the S. I would go to school and draw the big S on the chalkboard. And people are like, who drew this S? I did. Shut up. And I used to love the comics, man. I just loved it, and I love all the graphic novels, everything.
Wow, that is awesome.
All good. Yeah, it was tough. Like after school, I used to run to the little spinner racks and shit.
Yep.
I was all out of breath, because I had my $2 in my pocket. Which, hey, I had $2. I was rich. I had $2 in my pocket. I was the richest kid. I drew comics.
I remember. Y'all remember when comics were like fairly cheap, like 25 cents, 75 cents.
I know, because I would get like $2 from my grandmother. So I thought I was rich because you buy comics for 25, 50 cents. So I used to go to spinner racks, and I spend the whole $2 on comics. I used to buy everything. I thought, oh, yes, all the other kids are going to the pizza shop getting a slice of the soda. Not me. I was getting comic books. I was starved, but you know what? I have comic books. All good.
Pedro, what would you start off with?
Oh well, so I'm the youngest of 6 kids.
Yeah.
And I have like 2 brothers. Like we're the Brady Bunch. There's 3 boys, 3 girls. But I'm the youngest kid in general.
You're Bobby.
Overall, I'm the baby. My oldest brother, he's like the second born. He was crazy about comics. So like probably before I existed, there were like already comics in the house or whatever because of him. So yeah, we just grew up around comics because of him. But like he was way into Superman. That's like his favorite.
Right.
It was always been Superman. But like when I think I don't remember what the first one is, but Spider-Man was the big thing to me. Like I was crazy about Spider-Man. And my brother Larry, he's like just a year older than me. He was big into the Hulk.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
Oh man, that cartoon, man.
Yeah, I love that cartoon. And the heat.
Hey, y'all remember the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon?
Yeah, with Iceman and Firestar.
Yeah.
Oh, Zeus, hold on, Zeus. I got to give you props on that picture this week. That was good stuff, man. Iceman, Beast, and Cyclops.
I was gonna make myself Professor X until Pedro was like, "Oh no, just don't make me Iceman."
I have never liked Iceman. Apologies to everyone. I just always found him lame. Like I just never got into Iceman.
Iceman wasn't bad. There's a lot more lame superheroes than Iceman. Can you say Dazzler? Hello.
But Dazzler did disco and shot lights.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
oh my God.
Gates.
What?
Dazzler wore quad skates.
Yes.
Yeah. It's my quad skates. Yeah.
She's fighting the Hellfire Club with skates. How you're telling me that's not cooler than Iceman?
Oh no, that's cool as shit, man. She was disco before, you know.
Hey, Meef, I know you did not say Lex Luthor. You better get the hell out of here.
Melissa like Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor. You mean like when Lex Luger was on that Superboy TV show?
You know what?
Do y'all remember that?
No.
I remember hearing about it,
I refuse to even believe that.
Oh, I watched the episode.
Back
in the day.
No. Lex Luger and superhero do not belong in the same fucking sentence. Okay?
Yeah, I grew up around comics. So
no.
And James, you were talking about you used to cut up your comics to make like your own kind of stories.
Yeah.
We would take paper and we'd take like however many sheets of paper and we'd fold them in half and then we'd staple them and we'd like draw our own comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
that's hot. Yeah. That's hot.
I did that I have all these ones when I was a kid that I would just go and draw all these comics and all that stuff. So, but through the years, like I went off and on comics like more than my brothers did. And when I was starting college, a friend of mine was big into making mini comics, like self-publishing comics. Mm-hmm. And he kind of got me back into comics. And then I discovered they were bringing like Japanese comics over here. They were like translating them, like Viz and all that. We're starting to release them.
Oh yeah.
And so then I got huge into Japanese comics, which I mean, still like the only comics I really keep up with to this day are Japanese comics. So manga. So, but that I don't want to touch on that too much because that's kind of a whole other topic. But
yeah. Manga's a different universe.
Yeah.
But when as I was growing up, I loved the X-Men. And like you said, you're talking about Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Those couple of episodes that they had the X-Men on were cool.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't they make didn't they give like Wolverine an Australian accent for those?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So many. Yeah.
Because nobody knew what a Canadian accent was. Nobody knew it was a Canadian. What a Canadian accent was.
Right. I'm gonna pop you with my claws, eh? No, no.
And they, they almost killed off Wolverine early in the early, in that first year. Chris Claremont had been kicking around the idea of killing off Wolverine. And Dave Cockrum, the regular artist, he didn't care, but Cockrum was slow. And like what people say is like whatever you told Dave Cockrum you needed, didn't matter what it was, he would only finish 2/3 of it on time. And so it got to that point where they were like they got Byrne to come in and fill in a couple of issues. And and then he became the regular, when he was becoming the regular artist, they were like, hey, we're talking about, killing off Wolverine. And John Byrne's like, hey, man, he's the only Canadian. I'm Canadian. You're not killing off the only Canadian on this team.
That's right.
And so it's his fault for all the damn Wolverine comics throughout the, everything. And he accepts the blame.
Alpha Flight, too. Alpha Flight, right?
Right, but I mean, he accepts the oversaturation of Wolverine in Marvel Comics. He's like, it's all my fault. He's like, if I'd have known what it was gonna become, he's like, I might have backed off and let him kill him back then.
I remember in the comics when Wolverine blew up. I mean, he just blew up. He became like everybody's favorite.
Yeah, he was like on the first 6 covers of the Avengers, and he wasn't even in the damn books.
I was reading Wolverine. Here's some short guy drinking beer, and he can't get drunk. That was my hero. You know,
Right.
I was like, this guy's pounding him
Smoking
down.
cigars.
Yeah,
Smoking cigars, yeah.
he's just hanging out in the bar, like, I love this guy. This guy was awesome. And then like everybody picked on him, and then he kicked everybody's ass, and it was awesome. I loved it.
I got way into Wolverine at some point. I got super into the Wolverine stuff. So yeah, I know.
The Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries was really
that
good.
was good. Yeah, that was some good stuff.
And you know what sucked was that, like, and
Even
you're
when
talking
Logan
about
was
Alpha
patched,
Flight.
it was good.
Yeah, you're talking about, the Alpha Flight stuff is one of the things that where John Byrne kind of, ended up like losing his passion for it and ended up leaving the book was because he wanted Wolverine to come back to the book. He wanted Wolverine to lead the X-Men.
Excuse me.
And Chris Claremont, who was writing the X-Men, was like, well, we can't have Wolverine in 2 books. He's like, you can't take him from the X-Men. It's like, and it's like now it's like, there's, they're all in a million things all over the place, and it doesn't have to make sense. And, but, back then, it's like, it was just like, it's just like having more than one X-Men book. Oh, you can't have more.
Oh
than
my
one book
God.
at a time. And then, then
how many X-Men books were actually out back then? There was X-Men,
Shit.
X-Force, and you had Plastic X-Men, and and
New Mutants.
X Factor, and then
New
that
Mutants,
broke into the New Mutants, and then you have Wolverine, and then you actually had Marvel Presents Wolverine, and you had all kinds of shit. But I actually fell in love with the Barry Windsor Smith.
Oh yeah,
when he did Weapon X, that was incredible.
Yes.
That was like incredible.
When he did those couple of issues of X-Men, it was like 205.
Yes, 205.
Yeah, where he's on the cover and
Lady Deathstrike,
remembering all that. Yeah, with Lady Deathstrike and I can't remember the little girl from Power Pack.
Yeah.
You remember Power Pack? Boy, that was
yeah.
But that was their PSA. That was their public safety announcement. They're trying to communicate to little kids about little kid stuff. It's like like don't talk to strangers. Don't get raped and stuff like that.
And Uncanny X-Men. Yep, Melissa. Uncanny X-Men. Yeah, that was another book. Uncanny X-Men. Yeah,
well, Uncanny was the
main book.
That's the main book. That's the original. Right. And then they did when Jim Lee came along, and then they started the second book. That was Jim Lee. That was the one that had the 6 covers and all that.
He draws the best Magneto. I lost my mind with his Magneto, man. He killed it. I was like, oh yeah, that's what a villain should look like. I love that book. But the book that really got me,
Katie Power, Energizer. She was the
Energizer. As the book what got me, I think it was actually one called God Loves, Man Kills.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
That book oh my God. That was Chris Claremont. That was an amazing graphic novel, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, and that was, I tell you, those were the only real graphic novels back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and the death of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that was good. So was the Dazzler one. The Dazzler one was epic. And that was hard to find.
I don't think I've ever read the Dazzler one.
The Dazzler one was where, she ended up exposing herself as a mutant to the world, and she's this huge pop singer.
Right.
And that sets off the whole Mutant Registration Act.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. That was all her. It was all her doing, and it ruined her career, and it was a hard to find book, and it was expensive. I mean, it was, after it came out, like, people didn't realize it, but it was a short print in the first place because they didn't think it was going to do that well. And then, it was just, one of those things that, historically had huge importance. Huge importance.
There's a lot of comic book twists and turns in the universe and getting all the universes together. Because then they did the Ultimates.
Secret Wars.
Oh, I love Secret Wars. I love the first Secret Wars. I couldn't stand Secret Wars Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Right. because the Beyonder in Secret Wars 2 was Jim Shooter, the editor.
Yeah, he was. And that stupid little fucking outfit, you know?
Oh, the stupid outfit and the Jerry curl. And
the Jerry curl. He was overweight, remember? Because, all he did was eat and drink, and he surrounded himself by pretty girls. And he was like, he was in a stupid, like, the Dance Fever, Saturday Night Fever outfit. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, who's coming up with this shit? It's horrible.
Boom. Oh, my goodness.
Of course, it was Jim Shooter that decided that Phoenix had to die in the Dark Phoenix saga.
Oh, that was a great saga. Yes. That was a great story.
Because that Claremont and John Byrne didn't want that to happen. Mm-hmm. But she absorbed that star, and 4 billion people died on that one planet. And Shooter was like, no, she can't make it through this. You gotta, we have
consequences.
This, right. The consequences, there's gotta be some kind of morality to it. He's like, she can't, she's not gonna be able to go on. And, and they were all, and that John Byrne has said many times, like, that was the hardest thing to admit afterwards, that was a better story. Her dying in that. And what was funny too, because the one of the things that Byrne wanted to do to explain it away was that the Phoenix Force had merely captured her essence and DNA and made herself, and then transplanted a real Jean Grey somewhere else, which is what actually happened years later when they brought back all the original X-Men for X-Factor.
Right.
Well, I feel we shouldn't get too deep into X-Men lore, since we will. No, it's just I know we will do an X-Men episode in the future.
Yes.
I'm like, you should save some of this for the future.
Well, okay. Well, then let's show a little love to the other side of the aisle. All right. So about DC, they had some great storylines, and
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yes. I mean, all Crisis Infinite Earths were good. I thought, I thought the Jim Lee Superman was good.
I couldn't get into that. Now, the Hush saga.
Yeah, Hush was great.
Hush was amazing. That really was good. The ending kind of fell apart a little bit. Because it just, it's kind of one of those things that just kind of, built up everything else so much that is like, it's like, where do we go from here?
Right.
So yeah, if spoiler alert, if you haven't read it, go read it, because it's beautiful. I mean, that's some of Jim Lee's best work. And like,
it's great.
Cause like, it was like a bet in at DC. He told them, he said, if you give me Batman, he said, I'll make it the number one book in the world. And they were like, oh really? They were like, all right, So that's where that came from.
That's another title. He had how many books did Batman have? Like 8 at one time?
Well, there's always been Batman and there's always been Detective.
Right. Yeah, but then there was The Brave and the Bold, and there was so many different titles,
Oh yeah, he was in a lot of different stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, but I like Batman was good. I was a sucker for the New Gods. I love Darkseid, Him and Orion going at it. It was good stuff for me, man. I like that shit. And, then, I did like the whole storylines with the old school Justice Society.
Yes.
That was cool, too.
Let me tell the one story here. All right. So it was like 1990, 91, and Jason Todd was becoming unbearingly unpopular in DC.
Death in a Family, yes.
Yes, and so what they did is they had the Death in the Family, and they had the thing where the Joker beat Jason Todd with a crowbar, and they left it up to the fans to call this 1-900 number to vote yes or no to see if he was going to live or not.
I actually had one of those comics that had the number on it.
Yeah. And so my friend Jay still has a copy of the $634 phone bill.
Oh my God.
What?
He voted over 600 times.
Holy moly.
To kill Jason Todd. So my friend Jay is the most important reason in the history of comics that Jason Todd died back then, more than anyone else. Because if anybody else can bring proof that they voted more than 600 and some odd times for Jason Todd to have lived, I'd like to see it. I've never even heard of anybody saying, because, I mean, you know, that shit was what? It was like 99 cents a call?
Yeah. It was expensive back then, you know?
You know, he got in big trouble for that. But he was
awesome. Yes, he called the death of Jason Todd. I love it.
Yeah, so he was bound and determined to make sure that fucking Jason Todd died.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then that was back to a lot of books too, right? Because I was part of Death in the Family. And then they did the Red Hood thing, right?
Well, that was later. That was later. Because they ended
the
up
whole thing
bringing
with
it back.
Ra's al Ghul, right.
Yeah. So, but
Ra's al Ghul and all that shit.
Right, but what it did, here was the thing, though, too. Also, is that like editorial wanted Batman to not have a Robin again. They just wanted him to be on his own. Well, then that was the same time as where Warner Brothers bought DC Comics, and then they were like, no, Batman needs a Robin because you know, for marketing, for toys, for future books, movies, and everything else. So that's how Tim Drake came along.
But I think the best Robin is Carrie Kelly. Awesome. She was like
I liked Tim Drake. I liked Tim Drake.
Yeah, he was cool. But I mean,
fucking Damien.
How about Frank Miller in The Dark Knight Returns? That was awesome.
If Dark Knight Returns, the year 1.
Year
2.
Oh yeah, year 2 as well.
I love The Dark Knight Returns. That was great. I love the fact that he kicked Superman's ass. You know?
That was a lovely piece of fantasy and a large stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But you know what? Everybody, because I'm in the Superman books. He was like, he became too powerful. That's what Jim Lee told him back. I mean, he became like ridiculously powerful, and then even DC Comics was like, no. He can't breathe in space. He needs a helmet, like everybody else. No. So they had to tone him back a bit, and that's when Batman beat the shit out of him. I loved it.
Oh, man.
Well, no, it's because in the comics he started becoming all powerful. It was like, wait a minute, because like how many villains you're gonna get to be Superman then?
He did get depowered some after Crisis.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Man of Steel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's because because he was becoming ridiculously powerful. I mean, there was nobody in like 10 universes that could beat him.
Well, the thing was though is that post Crisis, Wonder Woman was actually stronger than Superman,
right?
Because she was just about on his level before Superman got depowered. She wasn't depowered like that. So, Meef enjoyed
Nightwing, Melissa.
Meef enjoyed Batman being broken by Bane.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was also cool too. Yeah.
Batman has had a ton of great storylines, graphic novels, this and
Uh,
that. Like
Asriel was awesome too.
he's had so many like awesome miniseries and things. Uh,
Meeps just brought up one Spawn. Spawn was
oh
awesome.
man, okay.
The
First off,
comics, the animation. I mean, Tom McFarlane absolutely killed it. I thought Spawn. It was the best thing that Image put out.
I think I was in high school when the whole Image thing happened.
Uh huh.
And yeah, I remember all of us
Mid
getting just
90s.
way into that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mid
all of us
90s.
got way into that.
I remember when I was a kid. Here's the thing that separated, like, you know, that's when I first started getting into the whole DC versus Marvel thing, right? And I was a young idiot, and I would try to explain to my little cousins, all the DC heroes have signs on their chests, like Superman has an ass, you had the big bat for Batman, and you got a lightning bolt for Flash, and like all the Marvel heroes have nothing on their chest. All you got to do is look at Wolverine and Colossus and Cyclops, all plain. I just try to break it down like that for them. We were getting on everything. All the DC heroes did this, all the Marvel heroes did that. I didn't like this one. He could beat that one. It was just like a ridiculous debate. And that made it fun too, because everybody want to see Thor versus Superman and shit like that, So it was good stuff.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't gone into the question of which do you prefer, Marvel or DC?
It's tough because as a kid, I liked Marvel, even though I love Super. I mean, like even though I used to draw Superman like all day long. But I loved Marvel as a kid. As I got older, I was into DC, and then after that, I was just like as an adult, it was just any good story I can get my hands on, But then Dark Horse Comics, I love Dark Horse Comics was hit, because they made aliens in a comic book. I lost my mind.
Oh yeah,
I was like, oh shit,
Aliens versus Predator.
Did the Alien versus Predator in the comic book? I bought the entire series at a Comic-Con once. I lost my mind. I didn't give a shit. I went nuts. I was like, oh, who drew this? I was asking the poor guy like 150,000 questions. He was probably dying to get me off that line. Shut the hell up, you spazzy bastard.
That first Predator miniseries was really good too.
Yeah, it was good. And then the crossover started happening. Then you had the Batman versus Predator and Batman versus Aliens and shit like that. I was losing my mind over shit. I lost my mind. I loved it. I loved all that. But it's the moment. But I just want a good story and good art. I don't care who puts it out.
Yeah.
Zeus, did you ever have a preference?
Yeah, I did. There was a lot of things that I preferred growing up about Marvel. I really loved the X-Men. The X-Men was my favorite. But I also loved Captain America. So I read Captain America, and I would read the Avengers when he was in it. I bought a shit ton of comics. Back all the way through high school, I bought, and even college, I bought a shit ton of comics. And, but the X-Men were my favorite, Marvel stuff. In DC, like I said, I love the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
That was a great storyline.
Because, and what it did is it gave the whole company a direction that it was more stable. So in other words, there weren't, infinite different kinds of Superman anymore. It's like, we had one Superman, and then we saw we saw all the reasons why there wasn't, they weren't around anymore. So it was a great thing, and it launched, good things later. But I also love Teen Titans. So
that was cool too. Yeah, but Teen Titans was cool.
Yeah, especially when George Perez, Mark Wolfman were doing it. They they were amazing guys. I mean, they really are. I mean, I met them both, and they're just really cool people. And Marv Wolfman, by the way, he's also the guy that created Blade.
I love Blade.
Yeah, and he was like, back then he's like, we were just, he was, kind of a comedy piece. He was like Shaft, the vampire hunter,
Right.
is what he was back in the 70s. And he said my hat's off, because that the updated stuff was all Wesley Snipes' idea. And so we talked to him about the movies. He's like, I love the first movie. The first movie was a great Blade movie. He said the second movie was, like a good vampire movie. And then the third one was, and that's all he would say.
I can't front. I like all 3 Blade movies. I do mark out for all 3 of them. I'm not going to lie.
See, I just like the drag thing was really weird.
I know, but it was just, it sucked, but I did like it anyway. Because I mean, come on. I mean, I was watching Triple H as a vampire. It was awesome, Yeah. And then you had the best line by Brian Reynolds. I loved his line. And I don't want to offend anybody out there, but you know what? I'm gonna say it anyway. He called that chick. He called her a cock juggling thunder cunt. I lost my mind. I lost my mind when he said that. That's an awesome movie.
The beginning of Deadpool, right there. I mean,
yeah.
He's almost. He's like Kevin Costner is always Kevin Costner in every movie he's ever in. He's always Kevin Costner. Doesn't matter if he's Robin Hood. Doesn't matter if he's, Tin Cup, Bull Durham, whatever. He's still the same fucking guy in every fucking movie.
There are a lot of actors that you can apply.
Yeah, he's neat. He's neat. Yeah, he sucks.
Right, but like Ryan Reynolds was born to play Deadpool.
Yes, he was awesome.
Right.
John Goodman was born to play Fred Flintstone. Ryan Reynolds was born to be. Have you not watched the Flintstones movies?
Yes, I did. Those were awesome, man.
They weren't great movies, but damn it, he wasn't the perfect fucking guy to be Fred Flintstone.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but as far as like Marvel versus DC, I loved that, and then but I also followed artists like I followed Kirby, and I followed I followed John Byrne hugely, and
John Byrne, Bob Layton, Jim Lee,
Walt Simonson was incredible on Thor.
Mm-hmm.
They took so much of his Thor and put it into these Thor movies.
Right.
I mean, literally, like the shot with with Scourge the Executioner holding the twin M16s. I mean, that directly lifted that off of his artwork.
Yeah.
And I was fighting Hela, same whole thing. But
and he came up with Better Ray Bill, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And he broke the original Thor title on the cover.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Stormbreaker.
And he said he just like asked a friend of his who was a graphic designer to do that new Thor logo, and he's like, he just like did it for me just as a favor. It's like, Jesus, how much is Marvel made off that fucking art off that logo? I mean, because it just it just brought it like into the 80s, and I mean that shit was epic with Surtur and that whole saga with the because back then Marvel, like when Malekith opened the casket of the storms, that shit crossed the entire Marvel universe. It was in Rom. Okay, it was snowing in Rom. Okay, that's how well Marvel was back in the day as far as editorial, and continuity. It's like is it snowing in? It's like, okay, you guys make sure it's snowstorms in Rom right now. Like, fuck, who the fuck is reading Rom? We're talking about wrapping it up in like 7 issues. It's like, yeah, I know, but we need to still, you need to still go ahead and make sure it's snowing.
But the guys in chat are talking about Highlander remake. No, No Highlander remake. Just leave the first one. I don't even watch the rest of the movie.
Doesn't need to be sequels or anything. Just the
No,
one.
I don't acknowledge the sequels. No.
And another great artist from the '80s was Frank Miller.
Frank Miller was awesome. I mean, come on, man. Daredevil and Elektra. Hello.
Yeah. I'm looking at I got the hardback Elektra Lives Again.
Yeah, that was a great story. Yeah, that was good stuff.
I mean, and that was some of his last really great shit.
Right.
I mean, it was like the pencils that he did for that. I mean, some of that perspective was really on point. I mean, and he wasn't like, there were some things that he could kind of cheat on, and get away with, and then depending on who was inking for him, but I mean, Lynn Varney was a he was a great fucking colorist, and I don't know who the hell colored. Lynn Varney was a great colorist. Did a lot of the, a lot of watercolor stuff, and then
Did you like Carmine Infantino?
Not so much, no.
No,
I thought he was a little too cartoony for me.
I liked his work.
He had his days. He had his days.
But like you said, like Bob Layton did all that great Iron Man shit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, really great artists back in the
John Romita, whatever.
Yeah. John Romita Jr.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. And then, John Romita Jr., he's got to live down the everyday 1989 one and only winner of the Marvel Hunk of the Month award.
Hunk of the month.
Yeah.
Hunk of the month.
Yeah, back when they still had the soapbox in the books.
That's going to be Jason Momoa and Aquaman. He's going to be the hunk of the month.
Did y'all mention the Kuberts?
No, Joe and
Andy and
yeah.
And they were amazing.
Sal Buscema.
Yeah, Sal and John. John was really amazing. He did a lot of those old. He followed. He followed
Patch.
Kirby
Did
on
you
a
do
lot of
Patch?
stuff.
Oh yeah.
You were doing some good stuff, man.
Yeah, but
Sin City movies were good.
I made this. Because me and my buddies, we used to joke around that, all right. So, do you guys know what Kirby Crackle is?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. So, in comic books, and this is for everybody, if you're looking at a comic book, and especially from like 70s, 80s, 90s, okay, and you see these bursts of energy and like trails of energy where it's a lot of bubbles.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay.
Okay, where the bubbles are like linked together, and like they might be black, they might be white. It's like huge chains of energy. Well, those
I think of Annihilus when you say that,
right? And a lot of that stuff, because that was created by Jack Kirby. That the guys in the bullpen would call it Kirby Bubbles, but like everybody else started calling it Kirby Crackle. Because it pops, it pops.
Right.
It conveys that raw energy, flowing and bursting, and all that kind of a deal. And a lot of that stuff from Crisis on Infinite Earths, where the antimatter is coming through. That there was George Perez used a lot of Kirby Crackle in that, and a lot of the guys. Yeah, and a lot of the guys that love Jack Kirby, Walt Simonson, John Byrne, George Perez, and all those guys, they used Kirby Crackle in their books. And so my idea was that it was a breakfast cereal. Is that you could buy Kirby Crackle breakfast cereal. And actually in my 24-hour book, my first 24-hour comic that I did, that was called Bucky the Werebeaver. He's actually the opening page is him eating a bowl of Kirby Crackle cereal.
That's kind of hot. Good job, Zeus.
Right. So, And that's what happens is he's eating the Kirby crackle, and that triggers the werebeaver part of him.
Oh my god!
Because
the werebeaver.
Yeah, because he had peed on a beaver and it bit him, and then he ate the cereal and he turns into a werebeaver. Giant,
hold on, Zeus.
Beaver.
Hold on, Zeus. I just got to address something that I'm reading in the chat real quick. I don't know who's saying it. I think it's Melissa saying it. They're talking about Jason Momoa as the Crow. What?
Yeah, I've heard that.
What? Are you serious?
I've heard it.
Oh my god! Why can't people just leave movies alone? I don't want the Crow remake. I don't want
either.
Big Trouble Little China remake with The Rock. I don't want none of that shit. Leave it alone.
You can't remake The Crow.
No, it's awesome.
It's
a little dated, but it's awesome.
Speaking of The Crow,
that's what makes it so good, though, Zeus. You know?
Yeah.
The original Crow comic was pretty awesome by James O'Barr.
Yeah. My god, the Crow remake is coming out 2019 October. Really, me? Oh my god, leave the movies alone. No more. Like, don't remake Jaws. All right, don't remake The Godfather. Stop fucking around with movies. Leave shit alone, and that's it.
Yeah.
Get original ideas.
Okay, look, on the remakes, I'm not into remakes at all. Okay, I'm not into it at all. But I've heard the main thing I've heard for it, besides money, and it being like a comfortable, like sort of thing that they can bank on or whatever. I have seen a lot of younger people express online the various social media and forums and stuff that they can't watch movies older than a certain time period because they feel and they need something for like their standards or something like of what they're used
bullshit. to. Tell them to broaden their horizons. All you got to watch a movie and look, it's called practical effects. No green screen, no painting, no airbrush, no bullshit. Okay,
I'm not
crap. Everything's got fucking green screen and computer.
Now.
It's like,
look, I'm not saying that I agree with this. I'm telling you their perspective. They feel it has to.
I can't watch a movie older than me. No, get the fuck out of here.
I know. Can you imagine, like if they had to watch TV in black and white, like some of us had to at some point in time?
Yeah. Oh, what? Oh my god. I can imagine those kids right now. You know,
what about I mean, do you know how good the original Errol Flynn Robin Hood is? And that was made in 1939.
And it's a classic, and no Robin movie can touch it. Even though I love Robin Hood Men in Tights, but still, no Robin Hood movie. And no, I'm sorry, Kevin Costner's Robin Hood. Get the hell out of here! No,
yeah, that was terrible.
No, I mean, look, how many Supermans have we seen, right? And nobody can touch Christopher Reeve actually flying, actually on a crane flying. Okay.
Right, and with a real cape too. All these other guys have had digital ones.
Right, it's not a CGI cape, boys and girls, a fucking millennial pieces of shit. No, it's a fucking real cape. It's called practical effects, people.
I think the Superman movie had like kind of a re thing on the theaters, right, from Fathom Events. I think they just had
it was a re-release. Okay, yeah. I mean, you know. I'm down with some green screen, you know, even some CGI, but I mean, you can't make a whole movie based around CGI. It just doesn't work. You have to have practical effects and a good story, and stop trying to make everything dark. Everything dark. Oh, I'm Superman. I'm dark now. I kill. I'm dark. I'm this. I'm dark. No, stop. You're not Frank Miller. Stop. That's it. End of story.
Well, there was Dark Superman with Christopher Reeve when.
Oh shit!
When Richard Pryor put tar in the kryptonite.
Oh my god!
We pretend Superman 3 and 4 did not happen.
I like quest for peace. Get the hell out of here!
What the hell's an unknown element? I don't know. What am I going to put in there? Tar. I'm gonna put tar in the fucking kryptonite.
Don't remake Crow. I know all the ladies love Justin Momoa. Yes, he's hot. The flowing locks, all the bullshit. But no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, leave Crow alone. The only remake I want to see now is Blade. I'm just curious how they would do it.
Oh my
Okay?
goodness.
But I don't want to see a CG fest of the Crow. No, I mean, yes, even though Zeus said it's dated, but that's the charm of the movie.
We
Awesome
we
stuff.
we need to get back on the comic book thing, but
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was my
oh,
fault.
I'll just say real quick on the Marvel versus DC thing. I always preferred Marvel. It would still to this day, just in terms of the character designs, the character origins, like in terms
thanks, Jack Kirby.
me having like an investment in like the characters, like that group of characters I have more like thing for than I do the DC. But DC
Iron Man was a fall down drunk. That was an awesome storyline,
I would say DC has produced better like comics and stories, like in terms of overall quality, like as over time, probably than Marvel. And I don't read any modern comics after a certain point. Outside of Japanese comics, I don't.
No, wait a minute.
What happened?
Wait a minute. So you got to remember everything that Marvel did in that golden era. All that stuff from the 1960s was just groundbreaking and amazing shit that revolutionized the entire business of comics.
I totally agree.
So don't you can't say overall DC. No, because there's you cannot. Because you can't touch that era that
right.
What Jack and Stan did is what is the whole reason that Marvel's still around today.
Right,
it was revolutionary. Yeah,
I say it Zeus as like a thing because I can imagine someone coming at saying Marvel is someone preferring Marvel over DC. I can see
Marvel Comics taught me about Norse gods.
I can see them throwing like Watchmen or this and that specific storyline or miniseries at me. So that's why I say that I'm saying DC has had some things that are probably better works.
They've had some great stuff, but
I prefer Marvel.
Yeah, but that's
like you said. The stuff we're talking about, the stuff we're talking about, the DC people hold up from DC doesn't exist without the Marvel stuff,
right? Because they had that. It's just like WCW and WWF. You had two companies that were pushing each other to try to get better, try to outdo each other.
All I know, I always thought that the Marvel had the greater in-depth characters, because all of us could relate to Spider-Man, because he was struggling trying to be a superhero. He was struggling.
Yeah.
You had Iron Man, who was an alcoholic.
He was trying to make money. He's dealing with sick on.
Yes.
He was trying to be a photographer of all fucking things. I mean, that's not easy.
Iron Man was an alcoholic, Captain America still thought it was 1942. I mean, they had depth to their characters, And like, here comes Superman. Hi, I'm the Man of Steel. Blow me. No, it just, it was. I can get into like the stories were great and stuff like that, but I believe, in my opinion, that because I think Marvel is one that opened up all doors to everything for me. For me, then I discovered all the world, the DC world and stuff like that. But like I was able to relate to the characters of Marvel more than I was with DC.
Yeah, I mean, you said it's the relatability. That's why we find them more. We can invest more into them because there's some aspect you can relate to.
Hold on for a second. And no me, I don't want to see Kevin Hart as Blade. No thanks.
Hey, Zeus.
Yeah.
Didn't you when Stan Lee passed away recently? You wanted to say something about Jack Kirby, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, man. All right, so there's a lot of people that are crying about Stan Lee passing away, and I don't wish death on anyone. And I mean, the man lived an amazing life. He was 95 years old when he died. Okay, but what people forget, and this is from Stan Lee's design, is what he did was in the late 1960s. Okay, him and Jack had been teaming up together. Created all this great, amazing shit. Mm-hmm. They created together, okay, along with some others. It was kind of a little hodgepodge for Spider-Man, but Jack and Stan created the Fantastic Four. They created the X-Men. They created the Avengers. They created, all that stuff. Okay. And then when Jack and Stan would decide what a book is, okay, like there still exists a copy of the original plot for Fantastic Four #1. Okay, it's a typed page front and back, and it's barely 350 words. But what Jack did is he took that idea, he read it, and what they would do is they would either just shoot an idea together, or Stan would have something kind of typed out, and then Jack would take that, and then he would go sit down with nothing else but that and his brain, and he would pencil all the pages for that issue from beginning to end, okay, at one time. And when he would do it, he just started at the top left corner, and he didn't stop until he was done with that book. And he created all of the dialogue and everything. He drew all of the pencils. He created all the dialogue. And then what Stan would go back and do, and what he was great at, was he was great at rewriting people's dialogue. And that's what he would do, is he would put those magical quips and the things that we all finally remember from reading the words, but all of those incredible visuals and all those characters, all of that stuff came from the mind of Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby is the one that drew it. Stan didn't draw a goddamn thing, okay? And Stan gets credit for a lot of shit, including Captain America. Stan Lee was a snot-nosed little kid fetching coffee for the guys at Atlas Comics when Joe Simon and Jack Kirby created Captain America. Okay? Jack Kirby,
Truth.
all right, so that was 1941. He, and along with most of the guys, ended up volunteering to go into the military. Mm-hmm. Okay, in World War II. Jack Kirby ends up, he's 5'8", okay, barely 5'8". He ends up in the infantry in Europe. Stan Lee somehow finagles himself to writing plays in Kansas City. Okay, like literally, you couldn't be any further away from any action in World War II than where Stan Lee was. But Jack Kirby fought in the Battle of the Bulge. He got frostbite of the legs. His legs turned purple. It crippled him for the rest of his life. But this is the man who went on and persevered, and he would bring all of these characters to life. He would bring these other characters that he created on his drawing board at home. He would bring them to work, like Black Panther. Yiki-kun, you've been talking about Black Panther this whole time. That's a guy that Stan Lee didn't really create. They had this idea, but it was a guy that came off of Jack's drawing board. Just like all of the Annihilus, Dr. Doom, all these guys came from the mind of Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby did more than the lion's share of the work. Absolutely. And that's why now he's finally been given credit as, he's the co-creator, he's the co-writer of all these books. And Marvel's had to go back and kind of redact all this stuff because that's what it was. But what Stan did is Stan was going out to parties while Jack's drawing 2 and 3 books at one time, and drew well over 10,000 pages. 10,000 pages of comic book.
He was doing all the work while Stan Lee was reaping the rewards.
Yep. And he was. And he set himself up. So when that chemical company came in 1969 and they bought Marvel Comics, they thought Stan Lee did everything, that any monkey could draw it and it would sell millions of comics. And they were wrong. And Stan and Jack
proven wrong too.
Right. And Jack left. And
Jack Marvel had to sell off all their licenses to different companies.
Yeah. And Jack created, he had the Fourth World. Okay. He created that entire thing that Stan had nothing to do with. And that shit was amazing. He was drawing 4 books at one time that all had interlocking stories. He was drawing Jimmy Olsen. He was drawing New Gods.
Oh, my God.
Forever People and Mr. Miracle. And they all had interlocking stories. And he was all doing it, and he was doing the writing, the drawing, and the editing all by himself.
Yeah.
And he did that for the better part of 2 years. And that was incredible shit. And so in 2017, when you look at the comic book movies,
he didn't get a lot of credit for anything.
Right. Jack Kirby helped create all those comic book movies, all the stuff from Black Panther, from Avengers, from all the great stuff that came out in 2017, and he also created Steppenwolf that was in the Justice League movie. He's the only guy who's been able to create significant characters in Marvel and DC.
Oh, man, hold on for a second, Zeus. Yeah, all you millennials out there, listen to this. This is called education, boys and girls. Listen, go ahead, Zeus.
Yeah. So, it's
CGI
just,
and the bullshit somewhere else. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so and then we lost Jack in 1993, and I wish social media had been around then, because that's the guy who created the Marvel Universe more than anybody else.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I've been in groups with guys like Eric Larson and Art Adams, and I've heard these guys talk, and they all know it. All the people who were in the business and who've been in the business, they all knew it, because Stan Lee didn't write anything. He didn't write anything after Jack left. He didn't create anything after Jack left. So what does that tell you? He didn't create shit in the first place.
Right.
I mean, they had ideas, but they had magical shit together, because Stan was talented at a lot of things, and twisting words around is definitely one of them. So, like I said, Stan's been through a lot of shit, and maybe, and I mean, they did some horrible shit to him. I mean, they took his own blood and made him sign comic books in his own blood to sell.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's disgusting. That happened in the last couple of years.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Zeus. Meek, that was awesome. Look at me goes, ECW kid steps forward to ask Zeus a question.
Stan Lee is the man.
He's our god.
Oh man, that was good. I would Wolverine his ass right there. It would be clobbering time, that's for sure.
I think, as me said earlier, I think we found Zeus's Luger.
I mean, because New Jack wouldn't be the only one with a justifiable homicide on his at that point, because I would destroy somebody.
Oh. No, but Zeus, he didn't get a lot of credit until like the last 5 to 6 years or so.
Right? And you see, here's the thing: double YWH. But Stanley is so popular. We see that's the whole thing. People have forgotten this stuff. People have kind of forgotten and forgiven all this stuff, because it was so long ago. But Jack hated Stan after that, and even when Jack, was at the point where he wasn't doing well financially and he had to return to Marvel, they didn't even give him a good rate. They gave him like his 1960s rate to draw again in the late 70s. And it's like and then they never returned, like, of all the art that he drew when they finally ended the lawsuit.
I remember that lawsuit, yeah.
Yeah, like and guys like Todd McFarlane, and the Image guys were all, behind, they were all standing with Jack, and they were like, man, you owe him all that shit. He drew all that, you owe him the damn art back. And they only gave him back about 1,500 pages of the nearly, like 15,000 he drew for Marvel. Now, stuff like from way back in the day, like from the Atlas and stuff like that, they said that, like, they would just, when they were done with those pages, like, they would just get piled up in different places, and like they would throw them on the floor when the ceiling was leaking from rain, and just, like some of that really old shit that it doesn't exist anymore. It was just trashed. And but like a lot of that stuff from the 60s, see, Jack saved like he did photo stats of most of.
Did he bring in Steve Ditko too? Didn't he bring in Steve Ditko?
I don't know. I think Steve had been doing comics for a long time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's the
think
one who
he's
got
been
to
doing
do Spider-Man and stuff like that, and that turned out to be
and
huge.
and Ditko was a part of that, a big part of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And what Pedro was sharing, with some of that great early Spider-Man art, and some things that Ditko did were kind of wonky. I didn't like the way he drew water, but but I mean, some of the things, like some of the ways he was able to convey like what Spider-Man was thinking or saying, by the way he would squint the eyes, because he didn't have a
Yeah,
mouth.
right.
He did a lot of cool little things, and the way he drew Spider-Man, as that nerdy kid.
Yeah.
Later on, Spider-Man he'd be kind of drawn as a kind of a good-looking, hunky,
Yeah.
well-built guy. And so, but he kind of balanced that out, that that he was more of a skinny kid who was more wiry, that he never showed it in the way he dressed, in the way he walked, because he was a nerdy little kid. And but then, I mean, the way that everything that Ditko imprinted on there, it is what he was. It was the way it was drawn. And once again, you're talking about a guy who drew from these loose ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Let's have Spider-Man fight a rhino. I mean, he's like, it's like, okay, well, I got to make this guy called Rhino, and I got to come up with all this other shit. Yeah,
let's give Spider-Man web wings. And it was cool because he had
and
little web wings.
The whole thing is the when you talk about the Marvel method of comics, it's very loose, and the way they do comics nowadays is like these writers are like, they're like storyboarding in words almost every panel of every page now, and it's a completely different animal, and so it's.
I think that takes away from the creativity.
Well, you think so, but some of these guys are really good at.
Oh yeah,
drawing.
they're good, but like.
I mean,
it comes off the top of your head, just put it on the page and get it going.
And then there's a lot. There's a lot of similarities between comics and wrestling. Some of it is so great looking right now, but it doesn't have a great story.
How many times the Hulk turned heel? You know what I'm saying? There it is.
Right. It's like the Big Show.
Right. Exactly.
So, but yeah. So there I am. I'm ranting. I'm telling.
Yes, standing ovation.
Thank you for dropping knowledge.
Yes.
Knowledge.
Well, I mean, I'm glad I saved that. I'm glad I didn't, shit on him right after he first died. But that's just the truth, man. There are whole books, there's a guy named Mark Evener, and he was like Kirby's, like for lack of a better word, he's kind of like his intern.
The skies are darkening and the thunder's starting to crackle over North Carolina right now.
Yeah, but Mark Evener wrote a book called Kirby King of Comics, and if you ever get a chance to pick that up, it's incredible. And and there's an entire publication from these guys called Tomorrows, and it's the Kirby Collector, and every month. I think it's bi-monthly, but like every other month, they have like all this great Kirby art, and you get to see these original pencils, and they do a lot of stuff. It's like side by side. It's like you see where like some of the inkers, like Vince Coletta, might get a little lazy, and like Kirby's like drawing like this beautiful computer board setup, and like Vince Coletta's running behind, so he just blacks the whole thing out. And then you see where like, Kirby, the influence of Kirby on stuff today. And those are the guys that, like I was saying, we actually went ahead and I made a Kirby Crackle cereal box.
Yeah.
And they put that in the Kirby Collector.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I took it to Heroes, and I had we got like this whole gallery somewhere. I gotta find it, of guys like Eric Larson and the guy from Tomorrow's and Randy Green and a whole bunch of guys that loved Jack Kirby. I got their pictures. Craig Hamilton. There's a lot of guys that loved it and got their pictures taken with the Kirby Crackle box. So
cool. That's actually kind of cool. That's actually kind of cool.
So I'll find that and post that. So, but yeah, thank you guys for listening to me babble on here.
No, you dropping knowledge.
I just remembered you wanting to say something when Stanley died, and I was like, oh, is this the moment? This is the moment for it to come up.
That's why they could, not for nothing, but that's why they call Kirby the King. I mean, hello. I mean, he's the king, But
yeah, I mean, he drew so much
good stuff.
And we can go on and on, but there'll be more Kirby in different things just because he's been a part of so many different things.
Yeah.
And, didn't we tell Zero he could come on for an X-Men show? Or
yes, whenever we do X-Men, Zero will be here. But
don't let him get too comfortable.
Andrew Garfield sucked at Spider-Man, by the way. Double Y, double H.
Oh my
I didn't
goodness.
like Garfield as Spider-Man. I did like Holland's not bad as Spider-Man. So he's not bad.
I want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat room who was there.
Thanks,
Thank y'all so
everybody.
much.
Melissa, double Y, double H, Zero, Beef.
Oh no, no. Thank you, Zeus, for
dropping knowledge. I hope you millennials are listening.
Yeah, Zeus took everyone to the pulpit.
I got two words for you: practical effects. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right. I don't know what we'll be doing next week or what'll be going on, especially with holidays coming up. But
well, this whole superhero thing is kind of cool. Maybe we could continue something like this, but in a different way. Who knows? We can toss around some ideas. We'll figure it out.
We'll see. But for now, it's time to go.
J-Bone, what's up, J-Bone? Coming in as we're leaving.
J-Bone, coming in Justice, we're leaving.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next week, and because next Saturday, because it's Saturday.
Oh.
Saturday morning.
It's such a good song.
I want my Kirby Crackle. Yeah.
Kirby Crackle cereal.
With chocolate milk.
Audio.
All right, guys. Have a good weekend, everybody. Take care, guys. See you guys on Twitter. Peace.